So there is a deliberate effort to take infrastructure as a strategic investment, but also to make sure that we invest in it because it becomes the lifeline of economic growth. And you come in the morning to work. And that is possible if we continue committing ourselves towards connectivity.
In support of the EAC trade agenda, a key priority has been modernization and expansion of key East African coastal ports of Mombasa and Dar es Salaam, where 90% of international trade volumes are transacted. In return, the efforts of reclaiming acres of sea area to build new berths, container loading yards, and new terminals all together are playing a significant role in reducing the overall cost of doing business in the region and growth of cargo volumes.
By 2012, Dar es Salaam port could only manage to handle 13 million tons a year, and that is stored capacity by then. But within 1 decade, the modernization and expansion of Dar es Salaam port, for instance, has enabled it to go to the capacity of handling 30 million tons, which is over 130% increase within 1 decade, which is, I'm sure, one of the significant records across the globe. We didn't have a Ro-Ro terminal, which has just been recently completed. In the recent, we had managed to handle a vessel that contained 3,743 vehicles, the biggest in the record. We managed to handle it within 17 hours, which is an estimation of about 220 vehicles per hour, which was not the case before we had this Ro-Ro. In the past, we would handle such a vessel in 5 days or 3 days.
Over the last 5 years, the Mombasa port cargo volume's throughput performance has steadily grown with a compound annual rate of 5.7% from 27.36 million tons in 2016 to 34.12 million tons in 2020. Transit has grown from 7.749 million tons in 2016 to 10.171 million tons in 2020. Railway lines have been revamped and built all the way to the ports to ensure seamless freight transport. Transporters from the republics of Burundi, Rwanda, South Sudan and Uganda don't have to travel to the coastal towns since they can now collect their cargo from preferred inland container depots. Embakasi and Naivasha for the Kenyan counterparts, and for those using Dar es Salaam port, Lusaka Inland Container Port Tanzania that is earmarked for expansion. So impressive are the returns from the previous port investments such that new international shipping lines are warming to do business with the EAC ports. With the region's economy still growing, there is cooperation towards investing in newer facilities in the port's infrastructure. Tanzania is undertaking modernization improvements on the Mtwara and Tanga ports. The first 3 berths at the Lamu port in Kenya that lies within the Lapsset Transit Corridor have since been commissioned. There is renewed focus in expanding inland ports with East African Community inland waterways like the port of Bujumbura, Uvira port in Congo and Mpulungu port in Zambia. At the same time, East African Community partner states have become more and more interconnected through regional rail and road infrastructure along the northern and central transport corridors, making it easier for business operators to transport goods across the borders. The community's East African Railways Master Plan is guiding the future development of the railway services in the region.
If we adopted the railway systems and revived it and also implemented the master plan, we would grow our economies to a level of 7.5 to 8% per annum. And this will change what we call the per capita income of most of the East African member communities and their people.
Along the Northern Corridor, Kenya's standard gauge railway, which is already operational, is proving to be a game changer in addressing the transport challenges on movement of people and freight to landlocked neighbors like Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda and South Sudan.
For SGR, it's much faster. Also, I think it's much cheaper because traveling from here to Mombasa using a bus, it's about 1,800 bob, while using SGR, it's 1,000 bob. Now, saving 800, it's a lot.
I'm happy I'm going to celebrate my birthday at Mombasa, and I chose SGR as my means of transport because one, it's secure, it's safe, it's convenient. I'm looking forward to have a ride on it.
Average transport costs for a 20-foot container from Mombasa to Kampala has fallen by about 30% from $2.9 per kilometer in 2010 to $2.1 per kilometer in 2020. And Mombasa to Kigali has reduced by about 50% from $3.9 per kilometer in 2010 to $2 per kilometer in 2020. While this is a substantial milestone, there is need to bring these costs of trade down further by way of extending the SGR to the borders of Uganda, South Sudan, and subsequently to Rwanda.
From Mombasa to Juba, a 20-foot container, it used to cost $9,000. Currently, given the infrastructure that the government with the development partner have put in place, the same container is $4,000. So look at the cost now. And when you look at the time it used to take, it has reduced substantially. And you can see the growth in the business. Even the World Bank reports do appraise East Africa in terms of the investment in infrastructure, investment in the training of the people, of the officials, the business growth.
The ongoing construction of the government-funded Tanzania Standard Gauge Railway, which is part of the region's central corridor, will be linking the country to the neighboring states of Uganda and Rwanda, and through these two, to Burundi and DRC Congo as part of the East Africa Railway Master Plan. The objective is not only to revolutionize freight and passenger transport in the region, but also form a land bridge across the region with this 2,700-kilometer railway.
One of the obstacles when it comes to trading within East Africa is actually the logistic part of it. You know, it's much more cheaper to get a container from China to Dar es Salaam than getting a container from here to Rwanda. That's really something, you know. To make it much more easier for these countries to be able to do
but also addressing the major cities' traffic snarl-ups challenges and spurring innovation in urban transport. Lessons from the positive socio-economic impact of Tanzania's Dar es Salaam bus rapid transit system, with Phase 1 now proceeding to Phase 2, first of kind in the region, has motivated other partner states like Kenya to implement a similar model. Several modern ICT innovations like high-speed weigh-in-motion technology weigh bridges have been integrated along the major transit corridors and are saving drivers time, reducing truck turnaround times, and also ensuring that the roads are properly maintained and offer return on investment in the long run.
We control through fixed weigh bridges and through portable weigh bridges. We have around 55 fixed weigh bridges, which every vehicle, a transporter should pass through to measure whether it's within the limits of the loading. Beyond that, there are penalties. We have fixed the CCTVs in 13 weigh stations, where we can see at the office or somewhere else through CCTV and see if there is any cheating.
Where we have the static weigh bridges, we have seen congestion reducing significantly, and of course we are hoping that more and more drivers are going to comply, because then we also have a more efficient way of ascertaining what is being transported across our roads.
East African Community continues to cooperate in implementing the East African Trade and Transport Facilitation Project, conceptualized in 2006 as a component of the EAC Infrastructure Development Program. The East African Community has built one-stop border posts across the borders of partner states to ease cross-border travel and trade. Nationals of EAC partner states do not need visa while traveling to other partner states. The 11 out of 15 completed and operational one-stop border posts, or SBPs, along the various border points amongst the partner states, together with harmonized road transport regulations, have all eased movement of people, goods and services, thereby saving time, reducing transport costs, as envisaged in the East African Community Common Market Protocol.
So movement imekuwa rahisi tangu sikana ingia. Maofisa washughuliki tena na kwenda kufanya manual.
Kitambo tulikuwa tunatumia muda mrefu. Boda hizo siku kama 5. Leo hii ukikaa sana ni siku 3 kama umezidisha.
A day, we quantify that you are losing $100 a day. So multiply by how many days. So before the investment in infrastructure, some of the clearance at the border would take maximum of 7 days. Currently, we are talking about
competitive transport and trade infrastructure projects in the region.
We just now progressed to about 60% level on a PPP project going across the city of Nairobi, which we call the Nairobi Expressway. And this will be a toll road, purely and totally financed from private funds, and the revenue accruing to the developer, again through cost recovery measures in form of tolling. Beyond that, we have been piloting the annuity roads, where private sector members are able to bring on board their financing early, and so we accrue the benefit of good road use, and then we'll pay this money over 10 years.
There is a paradigm shift. The role of government is to create a conducive environment for business sector to drive growth. Now, what government does is to ensure that the institutions, the legal framework are in place for private sector to do business. Both infrastructure, both business, it should be led by the private sector.
Currently, we have established a framework, our technical working group between the East African community and the East African Business Council, which is the apex body of the private sector in East Africa. And this network is meant to identify some gaps and see how we need to strengthen the role of private sector in engagements. During the pandemic, you saw deliberate effort by private sector working closely with governments to mitigate COVID, to respond to COVID. And if that partnership was not there, it would have been very difficult. But with private sector, then it becomes very easy to develop our partner states.
We continue to cooperate with other partner states on also improving our roads, the railway systems, the waterways, air transport. All this really to ensure that we have smooth movement of people and goods.
It is because of these deliberate efforts by the heads of state who think through infrastructure there will be accelerated efforts to develop our economies in East Africa. And therefore, in the next couple of years, 20 years, I see a very connected East Africa. I see an East Africa that is very easy to move, to operate in, and an East Africa that is very developed, possibly almost all of it moving to the middle income level because of the infrastructure development.
While a lot has been accomplished over the years, funding gaps are evident, and more still needs to be done in various spheres, and support from development partners and public-private partnerships will be key to build more infrastructure. In the years ahead, East African community will continue to build on the progress made so far, guided by the ESC Vision 2050, where all citizens enjoy sustainable socio-economic growth, poverty reduction, international and intra-regional trade facilitation, and deepened regional integration. East African community, one people, one destiny.
Victoria is the largest freshwater lake in Africa and the second largest in the world, with a surface area of 68,800 square kilometers. Located in East Africa, its riparian states are Kenya to the northeast, Uganda to the north and northwest, and Tanzania to the south, with associated catchments in Rwanda, Burundi to the southwest. Nowadays, the lake and its resources boost the economy of the East African community countries. For example, 90% of the hydroelectricity produced in Uganda comes from the lake and its basins. Large cities such as Kampala, Mwanza and Kisumu feed on drinking water from the lake. Its fisheries support more than 3 million people and generate more than $500 million of revenue every year. Crossed by the equator, Lake Victoria is populated by a variety of fauna and tropical flora that's threatened by pollution.
Africa, 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 Africa Mashariki.
rapid urbanization is placing an enormous burden on the secondary towns around Lake Victoria and its associated catchments in Burundi, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania. This is becoming a critical issue as all countries strive to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals for water and sanitation.
EAC has a vision of widening and deepening regional integration. We are the only regional economic community that takes the whole work of integration with the great dream of having a politically integrated East Africa. We are guided by successive development strategies, and the bigger aim of EAC is poverty reduction, where many programs are implemented to contribute to poverty alleviation. As you all know, poverty in Africa is manifested by poor access to health, lack of clean water and clean environment, shortage of food, poor education, and other social services.
The formation of the East African Community Lake Victoria Basin Commission, LVBC, gives a unique opportunity for these 5 countries to cooperate and share experiences as positive steps are taken towards extending access to safe water supplies, improved sanitation, and hence improving the lake's ecosystem and the livelihoods of the communities.
Lake Victoria Basin is the land that traverses Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, with a total area of about 183 square kilometers, and the lake, of course, inside it having 68,000 square kilometers. Now, this is a very critical area for the East African community because during the first East African development strategy that was drawn in 1997 up to 2000, the 3 then partner states of Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania declared that region a regional economic growth zone for East Africa because of its significance. Now, if you looked at the lake, there is a saying in China which says that if you want to know the way the catchment area is managed, just look at the water body mass. Now, if you look at the Lake Victoria Basin, which I said is 68,000 square kilometers, running through a catchment area of 186,000 square kilometers with a population of 44 million people. Now, whatever happens in the lake is dependent on what people are doing in the catchment area. For example, I'll give you an example. If people in Burundi, for example, I'll just pick Burundi as an example, do not use their catchment properly, there are basically some few issues that will take place. One, there will be a lot of soil erosion. There will be a lot of fertilizers. There will be a lot of solid and liquid waste getting into the Kagera River. But they will not stay in Burundi. They will be transported. And their final destination will be where? Will be in Lake Victoria. So what I'm trying to say is that about 90% of the challenges that we are addressing in Lake Victoria are not from the lake itself, but these are problems that are taking place in the catchment area. Now, almost 50% of Burundi is in Lake Victoria. So whatever activities take place within the catchment area of Lake Victoria in Burundi affects the lake. Rwanda is almost 100% in the Lake Victoria Basin. So whatever happens in the catchment area of Burundi, may it be water hyacinth, may it be solid waste, all of them, they end up in Lake Victoria. Whatever happens in Uganda, in the catchment area, affects the lake. And so is what happens in Kenya and what happens in Tanzania. So as we try to improve the water quality and the quantity of water in Lake Victoria, we can't do it without going into the Lake Victoria Basin or the catchment area. And therefore Burundi falls there and Rwanda falls there. You don't need to be in contact with the lake to have an effect in the lake.
Ownership of the resources of the lake basin, all of which are central to the overarching goal of managing the lake basin as a regional public good. The initiative seeks to develop the right balance between investments on water and sanitation infrastructure in the secondary towns and capacity building at the local and regional level to sustain program benefits.
The Lake Victoria Water and Sanitation Project is a program which was implemented in 15 cities in East Africa with the aim of increasing access to clean water in the selected towns where water is provided to households and health facilities. So far, the impact has been very good, and it is demonstrated by improvement in health standards and reduction of waterborne diseases. There is a direct correlation between poverty, health, water, and clean environment. Unclean water environment leads to more vulnerability to diseases. Poor health means little time and energy to work, which leads to more poverty.
It uses a phased approach to implementation which focuses first on immediate interventions designed to deliver immediate results, followed by long-term interventions requiring larger investments. LV Watson 2 focuses on the following components: development of sustainable water supply systems, provision of hygiene and environmental sanitation facilities, including solid and liquid waste management systems, and capacity building to town councils and service providers.
Mwanzo hali ilikuwa ni mbaya sana sana, mpaka tulikuwa tunanunua maji ili dumu la lita 20 tulikuwa tunanunua kwa shilingi 600 mpaka 700. Kwa hali hiyo sasa, watu ambao walikuwa hawana hata uwezo wa namna yote ile, kuna maji walikuwa mwisho wanachota mtoni, kwenye mto ule maji ni machafu sana. Lakini tangu mradi huu ulipoanza kuingia, kwanza tulikuwa tunafikiri ni uongo, lakini maji yalipoanza kuingia kweli tulifurahi sana sana, na mpaka sasa hivi mimi siamini kwamba ni maji au niko ndotoni, kwa sababu tulikuwa tunaona ni kitu cha ajabu. Kwa kweli tunawashukuru sana wale watu ambao wanatuletea maji. Maji sasa hivi ni safi kabisa. Tangu asubuhi saa 11 wanamsha. Wengine shawapata namba za simu watu kwamba mje mchote maji. Saa 11 alfajiri wananiamsha kuja nakaa humu. Kwa hiyo tangu asubuhi watu wanachota maji mpaka unavyoona sasa ndio kidogo amepungua. Afya wananchi sasa, hata hali ile ya kuharisha, maana watu walikuwa wanatumia maji tu ovyo ovyo, lakini sasa hivi tangu maji yameingia, hata swala la uharishaji, kuharisha, typhoid kunaletwa na maji haya ovyo, lakini kwa sasa hivi imepungua sana.
15 cities in the 5 EAC member states are beneficiaries. For instance, in Burundi we have Muyinga, Ngozi and Kayanza, while in Kenya we have Kericho, Keroka and Isebania Sirari. In Rwanda we have Nyagatare, Kayonza and Nyanza, while in Tanzania we have Geita, Sengerema and Nasio. And finally in Uganda we have Mabuye, Buama, Kayaboy, Bukakata, Lambu and Ntungamo. The cost of the project is $121 million. The African Development Bank, ADB, has supported the project at a cost of $108 million, and the 5 EAC member countries donate $13 million for their shares. UN Habitat contributes to capacity building.
This initiative or this program and others like it is very much a part of the bank's ongoing efforts to promote regional integration. Within the context of the Integrate Africa strategy of the bank, we have been working both in the East Africa region and across the continent to help integrate Africans. We are a very strong partner of the East African community. We participate, collaborate in operations, in projects, in policy programs, in all aspects. We work together to promote the integration of peoples, market, economies, politics, so that we create one seamless East Africa region. This is what our leaders want. This is what the people of East Africa want. And we are here with the East African community and the ADB to implement this vision.
LV Watson 2 is a regional project in which each country has its own management agency. In Tanzania, for instance, LV Watson 2 depends directly on the Ministry of Water under the coordination of WASA.
With the coming of this project, And after testing, we have discovered that everyone now in town would be getting enough water for various uses: drinking, cooking, washing, and all the necessities that are required.
This project actually shows the spirit of the East African community. For the first time in the history of Lake Victoria South Water Services Board, we've been able to actually implement a transboundary project. We are actually taking water from the Kenyan side to the Tanzanian side. And interesting, the first quick measures just focused on the Kenyan side, where we were able to do a project of 1,000 meter cubed of water per day. The additional is 3,000, and we will have surplus water, enough water to allow the water to cross to the Tanzanian side. And I think that is the spirit of the East African community working together and providing services to one another.
The situation is quite different. People have water in their homes, and they're getting water 24 hours and very safe water. On sanitation, of course, we had, in particular when it comes to the public toilets, there were no public toilets in most of the places. So we put up the public toilets in some institutions, also in public places like markets. So where people used to go to maybe bushes, you will still go to a neighboring town, a neighboring shop to request where you can ease yourself. Now they have the public places where they can go. And of course no lining, and the majority of people have in-house connections.
Now the production is increasing. We are going to connect more new households. More new households are connected, more revenue collections are going. The trend is going up. And we have the target to connect 1,000 households per year. Imagine 1,000 households connected per year. It's too much. And you see the cities expanding, is coming big. 1 year after 2 years, the city is changing. So the revenue collection will goes up. And we begin to plan for raising the new collection, the collection. That's about the tariff. The tariff, I think it's affordable tariff because it's been set by the Rwanda regulation agencies and the WASAC. There are two institutions that are there for the intermediaries. They know how to, the tariff which will not go up and become a burden for the people. So the tariff is okay, there is no claim about the tariff.
Kirakamariye akamaro kenshi ndetse n'abaturage bandi kuko ni byinshi. Iki kimoteri kuba cyaza hano mu ngo tugiye dufite ikibazo cy'imyanda, umunsi cyatangiye gukora hano nkeka ko icyo kibazo cy'umwanda uzakemuka. Ikindi kitumariye abantu benshi cyubakwa kino kigo cyabahaye akazi, gituma babasha gukemura ibibazo bimwe na bimwe mu rugo rwabo. Kuba tutafite aho tujugunya imyanda, ikibazo cy'isuku cyari gihari rwose, cyari gihari kuko imyanda yagendaga iri hano hirya no hino, ibipapuro, ubupipiri bwageze. Ariko nkeka ko kino kimoteri uko batubwiye ko nikiramara kugera hano icyo kibazo kizagikemura, ya myanda ikagiza hano mu aka gace iki kimoteri kiherereyemo no mu karere ka Nyanza, bikakagirira akamaro, icyo kibazo cy'isuku nkeya kigakemuka. Hano akazi cyane cyane dukora ni ubuhinzi, turi abahinzi. Kuba rero bamara kutubona iyo fumbire, nkeka ko ikijyanye n'ubuhinzi cyatera imbere mu aka gace kacu.
The water availability to the people was very poor. We had a small plant at Nyamazugo, which was used to supply piped stream water to Sengrema town. but actually it wasn't sufficient for the growing population in Sengerema. Almost the people who are getting water from that scheme was less than 20% of the entire population in Sengerema. And actually, even that less than 20% of the population, they were not constantly getting water. The water was provided by rationing. Once in a week, one street gets water, another week, another street gets water. Yeah, that was the situation before. So there was a big problem of water in this town. And majority of the people were getting water from shallow wells, which were not clean and safe. But also they are getting water from, there is a dam somewhere in the middle of the town, which also is used as a reservoir of all the dirty water coming from the streets. So it was dangerous. The situation was miserable. People are now getting water in their proximity. They're getting water in the water kiosks that are being built in different parts of the district, which were not getting water then. Now they are getting water full time. And therefore people have time to do other works. And I think I've seen the project. It's really impressive, big, very impressive. I'm sure it is going to change the life of people in Sengerema. And it's my appeal through this discussion to the people of Sengerema to use the water wisely for their development. They've applied for water for so long. And actually it was unimaginable that you have the big lake around here and you are not getting water. Yeah. Now the water is here with us. So it is our duty as people of Sengerema to use the water wisely so that we can have development out of that project. Otherwise the project is going to be useless. Let the people use the water wisely for development. Let the people invest in small industries like milk processing plants and a different project that they can make because the water is available.
On saisit de cette occasion pour remercier l'East African Community, la communauté de l'Est africaine pour justement ce genre de projet régional parce qu'on n'était pas dans le temps, on ne savait pas si réellement on allait trouver gain dans cette intégration régionale. Actuellement, on voit que le fait qu'on est dans une communauté et que par conséquent, il y a des projets qui sont élaborés pour trouver des solutions aux problèmes posés, c'est tout pour ce qui est de l'approvisionnement en eau potable. C'est une bonne chose. Et c'est une occasion aussi pour féliciter la Régie des eaux parce que on connaît que depuis la conception, depuis l'élaboration, depuis la planification, on sait que la Régie des eaux a pu suivre de près l'évolution du dossier, l'évolution de l'exécution du projet. Actuellement, alors, on voit que il y a beaucoup de projets qui sont en cours d'élaboration ou qui seront financés très prochainement, dont déjà le projet qui est en cours. La population est très satisfaite et en tant que représentant du peuple, nous sommes très satisfaits de cette intégration parce qu'auparavant, les gens hésitaient, les gens ne voyaient pas l'intérêt de faire partie de la communauté. Mais actuellement, les gens commencent à comprendre qu'il y a un grand intérêt pour le Burundi d'être ensemble avec les autres pays de la région.
Jewe ndi umushoferi w'itracteur akaba ariyo iri mu izokoreshwa mu gusukura iki gisagara ca Kayanza. Ego ivyigwa twarabikoze hama nkaba nari nsanzwe nzi gutwara izi tracteur. Ego uko tubigenza hariho uwo mugambi nyene uri kuratunganyaho ibibanza tuzoza duterekamwo ibi bikono mu bibanza bitandukanye. Gutyo rero tuzozana ibikono duterekeho abene gihugu nabo ubucafu bwose bwaba nubwo mu barabara hajya bakoze ibikorwa rusangi bazoza bashira muri ivyo bikono. Zoba njejwe rero kuraba icuzura impande icuzura ncandagitwara njana hategekanijwe tutwara ubucafu.
The county government of Nyamira has provided land for a modern landfill, 2 acres, which now is being done. And we are now in the process of acquiring another piece of land for a fecal sludge. and I believe in 2-3 weeks' time we could have concluded the process. So we would have been able to provide enough land for fecal sludge, and we have already provided land for a model landfill. And then way leaves, we negotiate with our people, public participation, where there is a challenge of way leaf, we sort it, which we successfully managed to undertake. But currently we have water, and we are likely to have even more water for our people. So more especially during the dry season, we used to seriously have a major challenge, but which is not there now. Now people are going along with their businesses normally because water is not a challenge anymore.
The project has already had many positive impacts on the well-being of the population and the environment.
Indeed, the adage that water is life is true. The LV Watson project undoubtedly has touched lives of EAC citizens. We will continue implementing programs geared to strengthening infrastructure related to water supply and provision, as well as waste management. This project is not only a key flagship project, but a signature project for EAC.
The implementation of the LV Watson 2 project has faced some challenges, such as delays in land grants, delays in proposing infrastructure construction plans, etc. Everyone's efforts have made the LV Watson 2 project one of the EAC pilot projects. The dedication and determination of the member states of the EAC demonstrates that integration is not just about politics only, but above all, the well-being of its people. One people, one destiny.
Africa, Africa.